Here's the thing about success that nobody talks about. The biggest obstacle standing between you and your goals isn't your competition. It's not your lack of resources or even bad luck. It's you. Specifically, it's the unconscious ways your own mind works against you, creating invisible barriers that feel completely rational in the moment, but are actually sabotaging your progress. Today we're going to uncover the hidden psychology behind self-sabotage and give you practical tools to finally get out of your own way. Chapter 1. The Upper Limit Problem. Have you ever noticed how just when things start going really well, something always seems to go wrong? You get a promotion and suddenly start making careless mistakes. You lose weight and then binge eat. You meet someone amazing and then pick fights over nothing. This isn't coincidence, it's psychology. Your brain has an internal thermostat for success, just like your house has one for temperature. When things get too good, your unconscious mind kicks in to bring you back to your comfort zone. This is called the upper limit problem, and it's rooted in a fundamental survival mechanism. Your brain prioritizes familiar over good because familiar feels safe, even when familiar is actually holding you back. Think of it this way. Your brain is like an overprotective parent who's convinced the neighborhood is dangerous. Even when you want to go play with the other kids, this parent finds reasons to keep you inside where it's safe. The problem is, all the good stuff happens outside. The upper limit shows up in three main ways. First, there's deflection. You achieve something great and immediately point to luck or downplay your role. Second, there's escalation. You create drama or conflict right when things are going smoothly. Third, there's regression. You literally go backwards, undoing progress you've made. Here's what you can do about it. Start by becoming aware of your upper limit patterns. When good things happen, notice your immediate thoughts and reactions. Do you deflect praise? Do you suddenly feel anxious about what could go wrong? Do you find yourself creating problems that didn't exist before? Simply noticing these patterns begins to weaken their power over you. Chapter 2. The Perfectionism Trap. Let's talk about perfectionism, because this might be the most socially acceptable form of self-sabotage out there. We wear perfectionism like a badge of honor, as if having impossibly high standards makes us better people. But perfectionism isn't about excellence. It's about fear dressed up as ambition. Here's the neuroscience behind it. When you're a perfectionist, your brain's threat detection system is constantly activated. Every task becomes a potential source of criticism, judgment, or failure. This floods your system with stress hormones that actually impair the very performance you're trying to perfect. It's like trying to thread a needle while riding a roller coaster. The real kicker? Perfectionism doesn't even lead to better results. Studies show that perfectionists are more prone to procrastination, anxiety, and burnout. They're less creative, less resilient, and ironically, they make more mistakes because they're so afraid of making any. Think of perfectionism as emotional quicksand. The harder you struggle to make everything perfect, the deeper you sink. The solution isn't to struggle harder. It's to stop struggling altogether. Here's a practical technique called the good enough standard. For every project or goal, explicitly define what good enough looks like before you start. Not mediocre, not lazy, but genuinely good enough to meet your actual needs. When you hit that standard, you stop. This isn't lowering your standards. It's being strategic about where you invest your finite energy and attention. Try this thought experiment. Imagine you could wave a magic wand and instantly become perfect at everything. How would that feel? Most people realize that perfection would actually be boring, isolating, and ultimately meaningless. Excellence is inspiring. Perfection is prison. Chapter 3. Fear of success versus fear of failure. Everyone talks about fear of failure, but there's something much more insidious that hardly anyone discusses. Fear of success. This sounds crazy on the surface. Who would be afraid of succeeding? But think about it more deeply. Success changes everything. It changes how others see you, how you see yourself, and what's expected of you going forward. Success means leaving people behind. It means outgrowing relationships, communities, and identities that once felt like home. Your brain interprets this as a threat to belonging, which triggers the same alarm system that kept our ancestors alive in tribal societies. Back then, being cast out from the group was literally a death sentence. Fear of success also brings up imposter syndrome's evil twin, the fear of being found out as competent. Once you succeed, people expect you to keep succeeding. There's pressure to maintain and build upon what you've achieved. Failure, on the other hand, comes with lower expectations and more sympathy. Here's how this shows up in real life. You work really hard toward a goal, but as you get close to achieving it, you suddenly lose motivation. You start procrastinating, making excuses or creating obstacles that weren't there before. Your conscious mind thinks you want to succeed, but your unconscious mind is pulling the emergency brake. The solution is to reframe success not as a destination, but as a process of becoming. Instead of asking, "What will I gain if I succeed?" ask, "Who will I become?" And "How will I use this success to serve others?" This shifts the focus from personal achievement to contribution, which feels less threatening to your need for belonging. Chapter 4: The Story You Tell Yourself. Every single person has a story they tell themselves about who they are and what they're capable of. This story was written mostly in childhood, edited by your experiences, and reinforced by the people around you. The problem is that most of these stories were written by a child who didn't have complete information about how the world works. Your brain treats these stories like facts, even though they're really just interpretations. If your story says you're not good with money, your brain will find ways to prove that story right. If your story says you always mess up relationships, you'll unconsciously behave in ways that create relationship problems. It's not that you want these outcomes, it's that your brain prioritizes being right over being happy. This is called confirmation bias, and it's one of the most powerful forces shaping your reality. Your brain is constantly scanning for evidence that supports what you already believe, while ignoring or downplaying evidence that contradicts it. It's like wearing glasses that filter out certain colors. You're not seeing the full picture. Here's a practical way to identify your limiting stories. Complete these sentences honestly. I'm the type of person who always, and I'm the type of person who never, whatever comes up, reveals your unconscious programming. Now here's the empowering truth. You're not stuck with these stories. They're not facts about you. They're just mental habits. And like any habit, they can be changed with awareness and practice. Start by catching yourself when you use absolute language about your identity. Instead of, "I'm terrible at public speaking," try, "I haven't developed strong public speaking skills yet." That one word, yet, completely changes the trajectory of what's possible. Chapter 5: The Comfort Zone Prison. Your comfort zone isn't actually comfortable. It's just familiar. Think about it. If your comfort zone was truly comfortable, you wouldn't be watching videos about personal growth. You'd be perfectly satisfied with where you are. What we call the comfort zone is really the familiar zone, and familiar often includes a lot of dissatisfaction, anxiety, and unfulfilled potential. The reason we stay in familiar discomfort rather than moving toward unfamiliar possibility is simple. Your brain is wired to prioritize certainty over happiness. From an evolutionary perspective, this made sense. Our ancestors who were overly adventurous often became something else's dinner. But in today's world, the biggest risk isn't physical danger. It's the risk of not becoming who you're capable of being. Here's what happens neurologically when you try to leave your comfort zone. Your amygdala, the brain's alarm system, starts firing. It doesn't distinguish between real danger and imagined danger, between physical threats and ego threats. Getting rejected, failing at something new, or being criticized triggers the same fight-or-flight response as facing a wild animal. But here's the counterintuitive truth. The anxiety you feel when stepping outside your comfort zone isn't a warning to go back. It's a sign that you're growing. Your brain is literally rewiring itself, creating new neural pathways that support new behaviors and possibilities. That discomfort is the feeling of your potential expanding. Try this reframe. Instead of avoiding anxiety, start welcoming it as a compass pointing toward growth. When you feel that familiar flutter of nervousness about trying something new, say to yourself, "Good, this means I'm growing." This simple shift in interpretation can transform anxiety from an enemy into an ally. Chapter 6: The All-or-Nothing Mindset. One of the most destructive patterns in self-sabotage is all-or-nothing thinking. This is the voice that says, if you can't do something perfectly, you shouldn't do it at all. If you miss one workout, you've ruined your fitness routine. If you eat one piece of cake, you've blown your diet. If you're not immediately excellent at something, you have no talent for it. All-or-nothing thinking is seductive because it feels noble and ambitious. But it's actually a form of psychological self-harm. It sets you up for inevitable failure because perfection isn't sustainable, and then uses that failure as evidence that you should quit entirely. Your brain loves binary thinking because it's simple and requires less energy than nuanced decision-making. But real life isn't binary. Progress isn't linear. Success isn't about never falling down. It's about getting up one more time than you fall. Here's a practical antidote called the progress over perfection principle. Instead of measuring yourself against impossible standards, start measuring yourself against where you were yesterday. Did you do something, anything, that moved you forward? That's a win. Did you maintain your effort, even when you didn't feel like it? That's a bigger win. Think of progress like a staircase, not an elevator. You don't go from the ground floor to the top floor in one smooth motion. You take it one step at a time, sometimes pausing to rest, sometimes taking 2 steps at once, sometimes even going back down a step before continuing up. The direction matters more than the speed. Chapter 7. Rewriting Your Success Blueprint. Everything we've talked about comes down to this. You have an unconscious blueprint for how much success, happiness, and fulfillment you're allowed to have. This blueprint was created early in your life based on what you observed, experienced, and internalized about what people like you are capable of achieving. The good news is that blueprints can be redrawn. Your brain remains plastic throughout your entire life, meaning it's constantly capable of forming new patterns and pathways. The key is to become conscious of your current blueprint and then deliberately design a new one. Start by asking yourself these questions. What did success look like in the family you grew up in? What messages did you receive about money, achievement, and ambition? What examples of success did you see around you, and how did people react to those examples? Were successful people celebrated or criticized? Were they seen as lucky or hardworking? Were they admired or resented? Your answers reveal the unconscious programming that's been running your life. Once you see it clearly, you can begin to change it. This isn't about positive thinking or affirmations, though those can be helpful. It's about consciously choosing new beliefs and then proving them to yourself through small, consistent actions. Here's a powerful technique. Design your new success blueprint by writing a detailed description of your future self living the life you want. Include not just what you'll have, but who you'll be, how you'll think, how you'll treat others, and how you'll handle both success and setbacks. Read this description regularly and use it as a guide for making decisions today. Chapter 8. Integration and Moving Forward. Self-sabotage isn't a character flaw. It's a set of learned behaviors designed to protect you from perceived threats. The problem is that these behaviors often protect you from the very things you most want to experience: growth, success, connection, and fulfillment. Breaking free from self-sabotage requires 3 things. Awareness means catching these patterns in real time. Compassion means understanding that these patterns developed for good reasons, even if they're no longer serving you. Consistent action means making different choices, even when every instinct tells you to revert to old patterns. Remember, your brain will always prefer the familiar, even when the familiar is uncomfortable. This means that growth will always feel a little scary, a little wrong, a little like you're fooling yourself. That's not a bug in the system, it's a feature. It means you're doing something your old self wouldn't have done. The goal isn't to eliminate all self-doubt, fear, or resistance. The goal is to act in alignment with your values and vision despite these feelings. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's feeling the fear and moving forward anyway. Here's your challenge. Pick one pattern of self-sabotage that you recognized in yourself today. It might be perfectionism, all or nothing thinking, or staying too long in your comfort zone. For the next week, simply notice when this pattern shows up. Don't try to change it yet. Just observe it with curiosity rather than judgment. Awareness is the first step toward freedom. Once you can see these patterns clearly, you can begin to choose differently. And when you start choosing differently, even in small ways, you begin to prove to yourself that change is possible. That proof becomes the foundation for bigger changes, which create more proof, which enables even bigger changes. You're not broken and you don't need fixing. You just need to remember who you really are underneath all the programming, patterns, and protection mechanisms. You're someone capable of growth, worthy of success, and deserving of the life you're dreaming of. The only question is, are you ready to get out of your own way? If this resonated with you, try implementing just one strategy from today's discussion. Pick the one that felt most relevant to your situation and commit to practicing it for the next week. And if you want more content like this that digs deep into the psychology of personal growth, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Your future self will thank you for the investment you're making today.